Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Choose Love Anyway. I'm Dalia,
And I'm Dina.
and this is our season finale, episode 10. I can't believe it. This has been such a special thing for us to do together. We have dreamt about starting a podcast together for the last few years, and I think we kind of always thought maybe it would happen years down the road, possibly. But I'm really proud of us for just taking the leap of faith and doing it. And it's been such a fun thing to do with you, Dina. So I'm really grateful we've gotten to do this.
I know it's so bittersweet. On one hand, I feel like there's no way we can do this in the next few weeks. Really, I don't want to say months, but like weeks for sure, as you are navigating such a huge transition. And then I feel like there's just other things I need to make time for.
Hmm.
And anyways, but it has been so amazing, and I feel like this is really our time to catch up, like, it's you and I, it's our one-on-one time, and that's why I think I am excited for season 2, because I think there's definitely gonna be a season 2. Like, if we're alive, there's a season 2. But I'm excited for there to be a little bit more of a mix-up, and I feel like we learned so much, and I hope whoever has listened to this has learned so much. And I'm grateful that we saved our favorite topic, saved the best for last. This is it.
Yeah, and Dina's hinting at the episode for today, which is going to be about relationships. We asked you all last week to send in some questions, so we have some questions that we're going to include in this episode. But we're also just kind of going to let this conversation flow a bit and share about some things that we've learned about relationships, what has informed how we see love and marriage and especially intimate relationships today. And then from there, we'll answer some questions and maybe we'll just let them kind of funnel in throughout where Dina feels appropriate to throw them in.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I feel like there's some really good questions, and we can use them to kind of move the conversation along like we naturally do. We'll just turn all of it into conversations.
Another thing I wanted to say about doing this together is that I guess we've kind of put a microphone and video into some of these conversations that we've had together and let you in on them. But we've also been editing these episodes. We cover a certain topic every week, and we've tried to kind of think about what are some of the things that are kind of foundational to us right now in our healing journeys and just where we are right now in the world, but we obviously could have talked about a million more things. And we're hopefully excited to do that. If there's anything you really want us to talk more about in this little gap while we're planning season two, which we'll probably release at the end of the summer, if not middle of the summer, depending on where we're at and how settled we are in our new place and things like that. But if there's anything else you wanted us to talk more about, please feel free to send us a message about it. Dina and I talk all the time, and we're constantly contemplating life and trying to be curious about the new things out there or new things that we're learning. And we are constantly evolving. So anything that you heard this season, we are always open to changing our mind. And so there might be things that we feel are important to us now and have been a part of our healing journey, but we might grow out of or evolve in the future. And so some of the things we said might have helped you and some of the things might not have, or maybe you really needed to hear one thing and then, you know, couple years down the road or even months down the road, that same thing might not work for you anymore. And that's okay because that's what life is about is growing. And that's actually also a really great lead into the episode because I see that the healthiest relationships in my life have been the ones, including with my partner, my husband of almost 10 years, is letting people grow. Like having space that two people can evolve and change their minds and be different than they were when they first met you. And that thought has been on my mind lately, this idea of changing. And do you have any thoughts about that?
I love that. I actually think that totally goes along with one of the questions, and it was, how do you know if you're outgrowing your partner? And
Mm,
I think I can obviously resonate with that so deeply, unfortunately, but I do think that that's a really great question. How do you know if you are growing with somebody even before you're married. Like, I actually saw a video today, and it was this girl who had been divorced under 30, and she was like, "This is the stuff I would have told my younger self, and
Mhm.
the things that I know now that I didn't know before when choosing a partner." And she was like, "It's really important to see if somebody has a growth mindset or not." And I feel like I wouldn't have known what that meant a few years ago, but now I totally know. Like, I have a growth mindset. All of my friends, we have growth mindset. And I think it looks different, but I think also matters the intensity of your growth mindset, because some people just want to grow to like the life that I would say I had when I was 25. Just like, I want to get married, I want to have a house, I want to have the kids, like that's good enough for me. But it's like this other growth mindset where it's like, I have this deep passion and drive. I know I'm meant to be an entrepreneur. I know I'm meant to influence people in this certain way. And I know I'm meant to feel this way with my friends and this way in
Mhm.
life. You know what I mean? And so I think it also depends on what that looks like, or like what your health looks like, what your daily routines look like. And obviously you can totally speak more to this of you and Derek, and as somebody who has grown with somebody for 10 years. But for me, mine was what, like 4 years, and it was once we got there, it was like I felt so held back, and I think, was it a lack of tools or was it just not the right people together? But I remember really feeling I could see something that I was only looking at and he couldn't. I guess now that I'm actively dating, I guess I'm just looking for how they approach everyday life, and is it with
Mhm.
curiosity, because I'm also learning that I'm super curious. So, like, are they also super curious about the meaning of life, or how to best
Mhm.
take care of yourself, or how to live a more fulfilling life? And what does wealth mean to you? And what does fulfillment mean to you? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel like that is at least my answer for that. But I would love to hear it from you as somebody who has grown as individuals, because I feel like you and Derek absolutely have. You are such different people than you were when you met, because you met what, at 19? You were 19?
I was
And
19.
now you're 30, that's crazy.
Yeah, so we have a joke that I was a child bride. My friend was talking to someone, and she said the woman was like, "Yeah, I was a child bride," and she's like, "Well, how old were you?" And she's like, "25."
Oh my gosh. I guess that
Yeah.
feels like, actually, that does feel
No,
young,
that is
though.
young, like, in society, like, that is young, so, I did not think that I would get married at 20, but I met my husband at 18 and got married at 20, and Derek was 23. We say it now, and I actually asked Derek a couple questions that I'll share later too, but we know and we have been aware for a long time that we got lucky also in some ways, like, the fact that who we've changed into and the people that we've grown and become are still compatible. My grandmother would say that as you change with a partner, it's important that you just keep looking in the same direction and that you're both kind of facing the same direction or heading in the same direction. I think marriage and relationships are different too, because you could be in a relationship with someone and it not be a long term thing. And you might have different things that you're looking for in that than you would in a marriage. And I think that all
Can
relationships
you
are
s
different.
can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So, what do you mean?
Like, elaborate on that when you say, like, what could you be looking for in a relationship that you wouldn't be looking for in a marriage?
Okay. My gosh, you're calling me out right now. Okay. So, I guess I'm not of the belief that I think everybody should get married and that that's like the end all. And that just because I have been married and because I love my husband and because I've enjoyed being married to him, I just don't think that's the only way to live a good life. I also know a lot of people who have been together for so long, decades, and have not been married and are happily together, have kids and all of that. I don't know. I just think there's a thousand ways to live a good life. There's also a part in your life where you're just dating and learning what you like and what you want long term. My husband was the first person I dated seriously, and I ended up marrying him. But I don't think that that's how it has to be for everybody. I think actually it's probably really healthy to date around and see what you like and be in relationship with someone because you discover things about yourself. You learn new things about yourself. I think you learn things about another person. And so I think you can be dating with the intent of, I am thinking to marry this person. But I also think like to have fun with someone, to go on adventures with someone. And there might be someone in your life who's like better to do that with, right? A partner that you've been with that was the partner to travel the world with and whatnot, versus the man maybe you marry and he might have other qualities that that partner didn't have. But they're more ready to settle and be rooted somewhere. And so I guess this is a really nuanced answer, and I don't have a perfect answer, but that's what I mean by you don't have to marry everybody that you date. My husband grew up dating. That's part of his religious culture was like you go on dates, you take girls out on dates. So he had actually dated a lot of girls prior to me, and so he knew what he wanted and maybe what he didn't want. And I think that I knew what I didn't want, and I had like a dream of what I wanted, but he's the first person I felt super safe with and felt like deeply respected by him, and that he was like a safe person and that I felt like was going to stay with me and want to continue our relationship and not just be interested in me for some time because I was like a new shiny object. And then as soon as that kind of faded away, that he would be moving on to someone else. And I think that was always my fear because I had this childhood wound that I wasn't even 100% aware of, that I had this father wound that I was scared to let actually men at that age, boys, in and really, kind of have an intimate relationship, which I think is very hard to do in your teen years period. Like it requires vulnerability. And I think it's very hard to be vulnerable at that age because you are also so aware of what others want from you, and it's actually really normal developmentally to be in this stage of like wanting to be appealing to others and pleasing to others, and to be yourself is kind of hard because you're kind of looking at others and mirroring behavior, and it's really normal for that age, but it's very hard to have an authentic relationship and a genuine relationship with someone when you aren't really 100% being yourself.
Yeah, I feel like you and I were a little bit opposites this way because you were very, very avoidant. I was much more like anxious attachment. And
Mhm.
honestly, it's like that thing says that no two kids grew up in the same household.
Yes.
But I feel like even now being older, I recognize how those are still ways we operate through the world, but it's also like a weakness and a strength. They both have their pros and their cons, you know? But I actually wanted to ask about some things you said. When you
Mhm.
said that you knew he wasn't gonna treat you just like a shiny little object, and then once he lost interest or once he got your attention, then he wasn't gonna like you anymore. And I feel like that is such a common quality I see in my guy friends doing to other girls. I
Mm.
feel like for me personally, I can kind of sense when a guy is like that. At this point, I feel like for me to go on a date with somebody, I have to have already passed, like, filtered you through so many of my own filters that I've placed
Mm.
because I
Yeah.
genuinely just want somebody who adds to my life. I do not want someone who takes away from it, or
Yeah.
mostly my peace. Like, I think there's a difference also between having difficult conversations and making time for someone and being considerate of another person versus somebody taking away your peace. Like, they might take your time, they might take the comfortability of being on your own, but they're not gonna take away that inherent peace. Like, they're gonna add energy to your life, add
Mm.
positivity to your life. They're going to fuel the good things in your life, not make you forget that they exist because you're so anxious about them. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
but on that note, I feel that a common question that
Mhm.
is asked is, how do you know if they are the one? And I guess in your case, it's how did you know that he wasn't that kind of guy? And what would you recommend people look for? Or do you think are telling signs that maybe somebody is just interested in you temporarily or is like the thrill of the chase for them? And then 2, a question that we got was, what is your take on sex before marriage? Which I think kinda goes hand in hand with this topic a little bit. So, I
Oh.
know this requires some vulnerability, but please, the floor is yours.
Okay. I mean, I appreciate those questions and I hear where you're coming from with asking that because I think that, to be completely honest, I don't want to take any credit for the fact. I mean, maybe I'll take like a tiny bit of credit, but like I said earlier in this episode, I do feel like there was luck involved or angels or miracles involved in the process of falling in love with Derek and trusting him. Like that was in itself, I think, a miracle in some ways because it's not that I never wanted love. I was a hopeless romantic in high school and was always so giddy for my friends who were in relationships. I wanted to hear all the details. I wanted to feel those butterflies. And I did have some of those moments. I just never had like a super serious relationship where I brought, him home. And it was like this very official thing, very mature relationship. Again, high school relationships, who says they're so mature? But there's some people who dated in high school and then ended up together, right? It can have some depth, but I don't know if I would have been able to tell because I think I just assumed that all, boys of that age just weren't trustworthy that way. So I think that I just made that assumption. It's not that I didn't think they were good. I had so many guy friends that I loved and I thought that they were wonderful, but I think that at that age it's just not that serious, and I think that knowing how sensitive I was, I think I just knew that I wouldn't be able to be held in the way that I needed to be and to have safety. And I did get my feelings hurt and like my heart broken by a couple boys that I like, I had only even just like given a piece of my heart, and I could see how much that hurt, that I was like, "Oh, I can't handle actually being completely vulnerable with someone at this age and at this stage in life." Like I wasn't this conscious about it, but I can see in hindsight that's what was happening. And so with Derek, I think that one, his religious upbringing shaped a lot of who he was. He like seriously one of the most Christ-like people I had met at the time, and yeah, he just was good, like, good to his bones. I don't know how to explain it,
Mhm.
and so it brought my guard down. He was goofy and silly and all these other things, but, like, when I could, like, feel his heart, I could just feel it from the start when we were together and I got to just experience him, like, I knew he was good and he wanted to love me and be loved, and there wasn't anything that I felt like he wanted from me, and I think that just automatically makes you feel safe, I think. And even till this day, like, that's kinda how he is. Anyway, so then I'll lead into my next part of that answer, which is I am a person who doesn't believe in statements like that. I just don't say things like, "Oh, I don't believe in sex until marriage," or something like that. I just don't believe that I should have that much of an opinion on how everybody else lives their life. Like I said previously, I think in this episode, there's 1,000 ways to live a good life, and I also think that you know yourself best. You know your intuition best. Like, you are the, like, creator of your life, and so if that feels safe to you, if that's what you wanna do, if that's aligned with your integrity and values and all these things, then do what feels right to you. Um, I think in our case, we made the decision from a religious standpoint. We were waiting for marriage. Um, but I think for me, it wasn't just that. It was, I didn't grow up religious. My mom just always told us growing up, the sex talk that we received was kind of the longer you wait to have sex, the better your life will be. And so I think in my head, in the back of my mind, that was like my fear or whatever. And so I think I was waiting for that reason. And again, for me, it was safety. And Derek was the first person that I met that I was like, oh, yeah, I would want to be intimate that way with him because I trust him. But then, I joined a faith at that time in my life. I don't think I said it in the last episode, but I joined the Mormon Church, or it's now more referred to as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and, we waited to be intimate until our wedding night. But again, I don't have a strong opinion about this. I just think that you should do what feels safest and most true to you. And do I think sometimes that does go with waiting until marriage or waiting to find the person that you feel really safe and comfortable with? But I don't have this like strong kind of opinion about it. So I don't know if that answers the question.
No, that definitely answers the question, and I think my take on it as somebody who is single
Been
and
there.
dating around and obviously was intimate with one person for 6 years. I feel like for me personally, at the stage I'm at now, I just have to be emotionally connected for me to enjoy being intimate with somebody. And so for me, I know that a younger version of myself used to believe that being intimate with somebody would kind of like convince them how great you are and sort of bond
Mm,
you in this way, and
mhm.
you're like connected for life. And so if I wanted to be really connected to them, I would use that. But I think that is not a way to actually connect with somebody. I think physically it's a very intimate act, but emotionally you don't have to have intimacy in order to do it. And so I think, like you said, if it aligns with your integrity, by all means do whatever you want to do. I think there is enough statistics and enough data out there that if you wait till marriage, you could still get divorced. If you don't wait till marriage, you could still get divorced. Like, again, you could wait till marriage and someone can be addicted to porn and you get a divorce. You can also not wait till marriage, marry your best friend, have the best, most beautiful life ever. Like you said, I do not believe that it is a one size fits all. I think you just have to assess what your morals and values are and do what aligns with that. And like you said, for me, safety is a huge thing. I think for me, it is something that is a very sacred act. Also, ever since I got off birth control, I am very, very serious about not getting pregnant. And also, that's just like a different thing. Like, are you having these conversations that are very intimate conversations and should be had, in my opinion? But again, like, not a one size fits all. Everything you could plan your whole life out and it won't go according to plan. You could have nothing planned and it work out flawlessly. Just kind of
Totally.
all the more reason to surrender. So, thank you for sharing that also, because I know that
Uh,
was really vulnerable. So, I
yeah,
really appreciate it.
thank you. I just wanted to say one more thing, which is I'm really grateful that I waited to have sex when I got married to Derek, and I'm grateful that it was a really, really beautiful experience. Do I think it would have still been a really beautiful experience had we had it, like, the night before? I don't know. I think that just waiting for something like that, there was other ways that we were intimate and that we were kissing and we were close and physical touch was important to both of us. But I think that there is something in that it was kind of showing to each other, like, we're not going anywhere. And even, like, the night of our wedding, I remember that I was a little bit more nervous. It wasn't even that I was nervous. We just came off of the wedding and this big experience of celebrating, and it was seriously the best night. Like, we have the best and fondest memories of our wedding night, and we love to, like, watch the video and, like, relive it because it really was just a wonderful, wonderful day, and we felt so happy. And I think when you're coming down from that, just there's also sometimes like built up pressure, like, oh, this is the night you're supposed to have sex. And like everybody knows that this is the night you're going to have sex. And I had no worries about intimacy with Derek, but it was really sweet because I remember he was like, we can literally just like, watch movies tonight and like we have the rest of our lives to do this. It was really, really tender and sweet because I mean, he's just a wonderful, wonderful man, but it
Yeah.
totally softened me in the way that the pressure was taken off of it, and I was just so deeply grateful and reassured that this is the person that I've chosen to spend my life with, and he's just so good and loves me so much, and this is not why he loves me. And I think then sometimes that is reassuring if that's a fear that you have, right? Like that the physical thing is the only thing. But I do think that it's okay if it's more important for you. And I also think it's okay if it's not that big of a deal in a sense that it's not something that matters so much because I do think that it is so much more than that. I do think that being in a relationship to someone, that is just one part of it. I do think it's a really important part and a big part, but I do think it's just one part. And I'm really grateful. But again, I think whatever you choose to do that's best for you and your partner is the right choice.
Yeah. And I would just like to add one last thing. So I was watching the Giggly Squad earlier and it was so funny because they're like, oh, one last thing. This is the last thing I'll say about it. And it's like, she's going to say this the entire episode. I'm like, this is me about this. But this is actually the last thing I'm going to say about this is
Mhm.
I think I used to be a person that was like, well, you have to test drive the car before you take it off the lot and like before you purchase it. And I just want to say to anyone I said that to, I'd like to retract my statement. I do totally believe that you can have great sex with somebody and not like you can get married to them not knowing what it's like with them because you're so confident in that you love them and that they're your best friend that it will be good. Like it's guaranteed to be good. I believe in
Mhm.
that now after having lived a bit more life and having that kind of experience where you fall in love with somebody before you're ever intimate with them. That is such an eye-opening experience and it's definitely grown my beliefs and, like, expanded my views on that. So, just wanna add that
That's
for anybody that's out there still saying that.
that's so sweet. I love that. Well, we kind of jumped into the episode, but I wanted to like rewind a little bit and talk about love because that's where it starts, right? Like marriage, any relationship starts with that feeling, those first butterflies, the feelings of falling in love. But our podcast is also called Choose Love Anyway. And so it wouldn't be a great depiction of relationships if we didn't talk about the risk that comes with it. In this podcast that Dean and I were listening to last week, it was in the Faith Matters podcast. And if you know me, you know I love Faith Matters. I probably reference it every episode. It's just, yeah, it really resonates with me. And I'm so grateful and love everything that they're doing. But they had this gorgeous episode for Holy Week that they put out about the God who waits. And the beginning of the episode, Terrell Gibbons talks about how to love is to be inherently vulnerable. And he specifically is talking about how God loves us and how loving makes God inherently vulnerable. And we talked about God last episode, but it struck me because I already knew we were talking about this topic in this episode. And I just felt like it was such a beautiful foundation for this episode. To love puts you in a position where you are vulnerable. And there's a risk involved to all of it. And so I think that a lot of times when we ask about what are the important things that you should have in a partner to ensure a successful relationship or a successful marriage or whatever, I think what we're really asking is tell me how I can be the safest in this. How can I end up being the least vulnerable in this situation? And the truth is, to love is going to require that out of you. Like it's a risk. It's a risk to love. It's a risk to have children because it expands your love. It's actually a risk to even have more relationships in your life because the more friends you have in your life that you love and the more people you have in your life that you love, the more your heart is outstretched and something could happen to those people and it will break your heart because you love them. And when you're deeply sensitive and an empath, that is just added layers. And I think that I have no answers here. If I've learned anything about love is that it's a big risk. It's a big risk, and so is to live. To live is to take a big risk, to be alive and feeling everything. But I have no interest of doing anything else. I
Oh,
don't wanna know a world where I'm not alive that way.
so good. Oh my gosh. I just felt that so deeply in my soul. I actually so appreciate that you brought this up because I always say the opposite of love is not hate, it's fear. And I think I see the number one problem with all of my friends who want, and this is guys and girls who want relationships, who say they want to be married, is fear. Even the ones with the perfect marriages of their parents, and they're like, well, I'm scared of divorce because my parents have this ideal marriage and I want it to look like that. It's like, okay,
Mhm,
so you want this thing, but you're so scared of not having it that you're just gonna push everything away and everyone away, or you're so scared of divorce, you're not even gonna try. It's like you said, and I think having been married to the safe guy and learning so much and breaking my own heart, really, I realized that, yeah, I married somebody who wasn't a great risk. And I think a lot of women want that. And I think maybe depending on your circumstances, you aren't willing to take risks. So you kind of settle for the checklist versus the feeling that is that risky feeling of like, I really care
mm,
about you and I don't know what I would do if I didn't have you in my life. And you love them so much that even though you are so scared of all of these what ifs, you cannot, your soul is just like, but go anyway. And the person is somebody who makes you feel safe enough to still go anyway? Whereas the other options or other scenarios that we often come across is wanting to be vulnerable, but the person doesn't make us feel safe enough to
yeah.
overcome those fears. But the risk is there and you're just not willing to take it, but you are already so devoted to this person. even if they're
Yeah.
not devoted back to you, you know? But I think that
Yeah.
devotion, that love, that true love brings, when 2 people have that type of devotion for each other, I think that's where it's like the one, you know? I think you can have that with multiple people, but I don't think you can have that with everyone, and so I think it's about coming across the person who you have that mutual devotion with.
Mm.
And again, I think that's why they say love isn't enough because I think you can have that feeling, and I agree with you 1,000%. Like, for me, being vulnerable, it is scariest when I care about what the other person thinks of me,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I want to care what my husband thinks of me, so I have
Yeah.
to be willing to take that risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what you're saying though is bringing me to this other point, which is relationships and just the risk in them involved, right? And then marriages, because like we said previously, that's not the only way to be in a relationship with someone, but in an intimate relationship, um, I getting married young and also it wasn't even divorce that I was worried about. It's that I really wanted to have a happy, joyful marriage. And live a life where I really wanted to be with the person and that I really loved him and he loved me and we really respected each other. That was really important. But we didn't have a ton of those examples around us. And so I think that I made it my goal. I was already, wanting to heal things and I've always been interested in psychology. And so marriage therapy and all those things was really fascinating to me. And so from the very beginning, like from the moment we were engaged and even before that, I was already looking into like tools and things to help me and to just understand better what I was going to be committing myself to. And one of my favorite therapists I first came across is a member of our faith, but I think anybody could benefit from listening to her. Her name is Dr. Jennifer Finlayson Fife. She has this book called That We Might Have Joy. That she recently came out with, and it's about desire, divinity, and intimate love. And it's a lot of what she's really taught me the last like 10 years of my life and the hope that she's brought to my life and my marriage. And one of the big things, there's so many things, like I could really do like an episode about her and talk about her for hours of the things that I've learned from her. But one of the big things that she teaches and part of her expert opinion, because she's worked with so many couples over the years of what she sees in relationships, is she believes that marriage exposes our immaturity, fears, and insecurities. And she says that instead of that being a failure in a marriage, she frames it as soul work. So that is like your soul work together. So then marriage, instead of performing or just being a checking off of something, marriage then becomes a place of learning, of honesty and accountability and courage and deeper love. And she reframes a lot of the struggle in a relationship as not to look at it as something that's broken, but that this is just where the growth is beginning. Like the cracks in your relationship are a place to start, not a place to end. And I think that that can be so hopeful and so encouraging. And so I think when Derek and I did start to rub up against each other or we saw each other's limitations, I would knew how to approach them because of what she was sharing with us. I'm a big believer that like you can start couples therapy whenever. I think it's so great. I think honestly, you're better off starting it before you even have any issues because I think that two people that come from completely different lives and were raised by different people, probably grew up in different areas, have different cultures, traditions that they celebrate, might have different religious backgrounds. It's just bringing in like a third party that's neutral, that's there to advocate for the relationship, which is what you both ultimately want. And so I think it's just like a really healthy thing. I don't think it's a weakness. I wish I would have done it way sooner in that Derek and I were using a lot of these tools in our own way, but once we had kids, I think it became a little more challenging because those wounds just felt bigger, like they came up more, and your children will expose things in you. And that she also talks about the relationship that you have with your children, right? Like that'll expose things. It exposes your limitations, your insecurities, your fears. And I think sometimes when we see those things about ourselves, we want to run away or we want to look away, or we start to find ways to like be avoidant in the relationship, or we anxiously attach. And it's given me so much hope. And I truly like, I got to meet her this last year at a Faith Matters conference. Both Derek and I felt a lot of emotion because she really did help us in so many ways just by the knowledge that she puts out there. So I think that lean on the knowledge that you have around you. If your ankle was hurting or any body part, like your tooth is hurting, you're gonna go to the dentist and you're gonna get him to look at it and be like, "Hey, is everything okay?" And when your relationship is hurting, like when someone in the relationship isn't happy or there is some pain points or you're finding that you're brushing up against each other in a way that leaves you in pain or you're aching somewhere, the most loving thing to do would be to go and get that looked at. And that's what like marriage therapists are. That's what couples therapists are. That's what couples coaches are. That is not a bad thing to do. You would tell anybody to do that. And I just think that in any relationship, even like sister relationships and family relationships, there's so many neutral third parties out there that will literally speak your exact language. And it might take you a second to find the one that works for you, but I think there's no shame in that. So that's gonna be my like my own personal plug for couples therapists. But I wanted to take that moment to share the books that I've loved too. Another book that I really love about relationships is Gift from the Sea. Can you see it? A really beautiful book about like the different stages of your relationship, like the very beginning to the middle to like after kids to after your kids are grown up, how it evolves and changes, and she compares it to like these different shells in the ocean and in their different times, and it's very kind of like poetic and beautiful, and it really spoke to me, and it was gifted to me right after I had my girls, and so our relationship had shifted, and I guess I found a lot of hope in this idea of the relationship continuing to evolve through these different stages, because obviously when you bring in a child or children, which we jumped from 0 to 2, it changed a lot, and that's when I first, I think, started to feel a little bit like, "Oh, wait, I have had all these tools that have worked, but I need more tools." And anyway, another book is 8 Rules of Love by Jay Shetty, which I got my coaching certification from his certification school. I also really loved his book, Think Like a Monk. I read it probably 7 years ago, and, that's when I decided, like, I really wanted to go to his coaching school, but I didn't do it at that time because I got pregnant with my girls shortly after. But I really just love his writing, and I think this is a really great book on how to find it, keep it, and let it go. And I think that that's something that we often don't, allow space for, which is like sometimes the right thing is to let it go. And sometimes it's, to find it and let it go. And sometimes it's to find it and keep it. And we all have something to teach each other and learn from each other. And so I really don't think any relationship is a waste of time because I think it grows us up because it exposed these things about us. So those are just some of the tools that I would recommend in relationships and some books that I love too.
which we appreciate because your marriage is actually very healthy and definitely an example to me. So thank you. I remember I read the 8 Rules of Love a few years ago and I really liked it because he talks about all the different types of love and it is very eye opening. So thank you for sharing that. I also do totally believe in therapy. And like you said, great example. If you're hurting, also, we work out preventatively. Why wouldn't you work on your relationship preventatively? And I
Mhm.
think also how people often say it's always our relationship versus us as individuals. So it's like we are both fighting for our relationship, not for ourselves. We are both doing whatever we can to, to nurture the relationship and heal it. Also, something really important that you said that I loved is how you guys are working on your relationship. Like you both know you want to make this relationship work. So, like you said, just like we work out the body, we should work out for the relationship, but in different ways, like do preventative work, keep it strong. What are the things you're doing every day to nurture it, to keep it fueled, to keep it healthy, to keep it strong, to keep it going, sleeping well at night? It's your first baby between each other. So
Mhm.
I think a lot of people say whenever they have arguments, it's never about them versus each other, like the one partner versus the other partner. It's always their wounds versus the relationship and how are they helping the relationship and not giving into their own individualized wounds or fears, which I think is so
Mhm.
beautiful to look at it that way. Okay, let me read off some of the questions that we have, if you're okay with that, because I think we're
Mhm.
kind of making this long. But you know what? Last episode of the season, we got this. Okay, so, well, someone they asked it in a different way, but that's because they know me personally. But am I dating currently? Yes, I'm actively going on dates. I'm not like I don't have a boyfriend though, and I don't think that people will know if I have a boyfriend for a long time, as public and vulnerable as I am on social media. Um, okay, what is your take on dating apps, and what is your advice for somebody who is exhausted by them? I think this is actually such a good and applicable question to people in their late 20s, early 30s, or really any stage of life that they're in, and if they're dating and using the apps. Um, I have my answer, but I wanna let you answer first if you have an answer.
Listen, I've never gotten to do the swiping and the dating with the apps, and honestly, I think I would be horrific at it, so I'm just really grateful I'm not doing that. So I have no advice. I'm open to hearing your advice.
I feel that it is not for me. I met my ex-husband through a dating app. It was great until it wasn't. I think I'm just too much of an energy person at this point, and I'm really, really adamant that I wanna marry my best friend. I feel like I have such a great and amazing, incredible ex, and honestly, it does make dating a little hard out here because my standards are very high because I obviously compare everybody to him, like, I didn't come this far to only come this far, but I will say that the only thing that was lacking, I would say, I mean, obviously nobody's perfect, but was the friendship. Like, I really, really want to marry my best friend. I understand the importance of that now, and that they
Mhm,
should make me feel very similar ways that I do with my girlfriends. And I know there's gonna be some differences, but I think the general feeling of just feeling so seen and emotionally connected and understood is something that I know is possible. I probably know more people who met and got married from dating apps than not, and so I think they are amazing if you can use them, like, tons of success. For me
mhm.
personally, I cannot use one, unfortunately, and it's just because I am too energy sensitive, and I really want to make sure that somebody is my friend, and I think it's really hard for me to start out dating somebody instead of being friends with them first. That's a little tea for whoever asked that question about my dating life. Okay, for Dahlia, how did you know your marriage was something you wanted to stay in and still want to stay in after 10 years of marriage?
That's such an interesting question because it's like poised like it's a choice. Like you are still choosing that actively, and I've never heard it said that way, so I really like that. Um, I think that I, one, love my husband. Most of the time, I'm obsessed with him. I'm just kidding. Since we've had kids, you end up seeing and witnessing each other in new ways, and it's a transition, and you were parented in different ways, and so I think that that obviously changes things. And I actually was kind of asking my husband about this yesterday. What does he think has helped our marriage be so healthy and that we've been together for 10 years and happily together for 10 years, right? It hasn't been perfect and we have had hard moments and hard times, but like I said previously, I think that that is to be expected in a marriage and I actually think that's what a marriage is supposed to be if you're really wanting to grow up. I think that you will be challenged by each other. I think, and Jennifer Finlayson Fife actually said this years ago, she was asked, "Do you think there's like a character quality that you should be looking in a partner?" And my husband and I both said when we were having this conversation last night, in hindsight, I think that our willingness to change and grow, but also to admit where we are wrong, to see our own limitations and acknowledge them, and be willing to be like, yeah, this is something that I need to work on, or I am trying to work on this, and like wanting to be a better human, not just being like, this is who I am. And I'm not changing, like, this is my identity. Or, um, yeah, not willing to be wrong. Like, growth just plateaus at some point if you are living in that way, and I think that's when you start to grow apart. Maybe some people do stay together, and I think we do see that in previous generations, right? Like, you kind of live complacently together, and I think that that's just something I wasn't interested in because I just don't want our marriage to ever be a prison and a place where we're just, like, kind of not alive in and experiencing it, and I think that that's probably what it is. I actually am open to the idea that if that's something he ever feels is that he doesn't feel, like, fulfilled by a relationship, like, of course, first would be working on it, right? But if at some point we outgrow each other, which I hope doesn't happen, but I don't live in a world, I guess, where I don't think that that's not a possibility and a normal and healthy possibility for some people that you end up, you know, outgrowing each other or you learn what you needed to from each other, and that's just not, um, supposed to be a forever relationship. I hope that our relationship is that. Um, it has so far been that, but I guess having room to breathe and that freedom, leaving that as an option, I guess, of like, if you ever feel this way, like we have this agreement that if you ever want to be with someone else, like just tell me. We don't want to put each other through that. We respect each other more than that. We love each other more than that to be putting each other through that experience. So just tell me you're not trapped here. You have a choice, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I feel like freedom is such an important quality for me that both people just coming willingly because that's totally what my pattern app tells me. And I have learned this about myself in the last few years how important it is for me to feel free in a relationship, but also for my partner and for us to both come from a place of abundance and want to be together versus a need.
Mm,
Like we shouldn't need anything from each other um, and my pattern app actually said this that what I need to focus on for deeper connections and relationships is it says, with your natural charisma and warmth, you might sometimes attract partners who admire your energy but struggle to meet your depth. You're wired for relationships that feel free spirited and intellectually stimulating, yet what truly nourishes you is when someone can match your emotional intensity while giving you space to be independent. There is a
mm,
tension between your need for playful connection and your profound capacity for empathy. You might unconsciously choose partners who keep things light because diving into deep emotional waters feels overwhelming. But what you're really craving is someone who can handle both your fiery passion and your oceanic sensitivity without making you choose between them. Like, that is so good. That is
wow, yeah.
literally that is
So
me. And
you.
yeah, and it always says, like, you can't have a partner that needs anything from you. It should be a free place. And I really do see that in you and Derek or any relationship that I really look up to. The energy just feels like they are genuinely just excited to be together and live another day together. And it's so from this place of like, yeah, I want to do this again another day and I want to go back again and I want to go back again. It's like, yeah.
Hey,
And
listen, I will say I would definitely say that once we had kids, that was a little bit different because sometimes I'm like, "Man, I have to do that again."
wait, that's actually one of the questions is how did your relationship change when you had kids?
That's a great question. It obviously changed a lot. I think especially for people who don't have kids right away, once you've known your relationship without kids for a long time, then I think having kids is a change and it changes your dynamic. It changes where your attention goes. I mean, you're more exhausted. You meet each other at some of the lowest points in your life in those times. And you maybe have never seen each other experience that before. Actually, you probably never saw each other experience that before. There's like a rule, and it's like, it's a rule. I put quotation marks around it, but like to know a person in all seasons of the year or whatever. Like that was I think Derek's kind of thing before you marry them. So you see them in all of these different seasons, whatever. I think it's just saying like to know them for a good amount of time, at least a year basically. But
Mhm.
I've also heard it said like to see them in different situations. And the truth is like unless they're already a parent or unless you already had kids together before you got married or whatnot, I think that that's just something that you cannot know and you won't know that about each other. So I think in a way we met new versions of ourselves as a mother. I feel like I changed in so many ways. I still feel like I'm changing. I don't think I'll ever be the Dahlia that I was. I think at first sometimes you think, "Oh yeah, like I'll get back to that person." But the thing is I don't really want to be that person because I've experienced so much since then. So I'm not her anymore. And he's not who he once was either. Not in a bad way, but like we've both grown up and that's I think what love is to me and what marriage is to me is like this space to grow and evolve together, but it's gonna look messy. Growing is messy sometimes. I know I keep bringing it back to the gym for some reason or like muscles, probably because I have a messed up knee right now. building strength isn't comfortable and it hurts sometimes. And sometimes you get injuries while you're trying to get healthy. So you might run into things as you're uncovering things that are hard and it might make your relationship more difficult for a time. But in the grand scheme of the relationship, if you're trying to be together for a long time, that is just a small part of it. And the hope is that that will only make your relationship better going through that harder time. And I'm really proud of the way we've handled, being thrown into being parents to twins and just, yes, our relationship has changed. And yes, it's been hard the last 4 or 5 years, but also there's been so much joy and so much love, and I truly am so, so grateful for the husband and father Derek is, and the brother that he is, and the son, and the friend, and just, like, a member of community that he is, and the way that he just shows up for the people in his life. I'm so grateful for that. But I saw a TikTok earlier today, and it was by a creator called Maddie Castellano, and I sent it to my husband too, but it's, like, a picture of him with her while she's giving birth and then, like, taking care of their family and, all the adventures that they've been on, and they've been together for a long time. But it says, "Remember to marry a man who wants to be a husband and a father, not have someone who wants a wife and kids." And I think that is exactly what I was not wanting to have. I wanted someone who really wanted to be a father because I didn't have that relationship. I always yearned for it. And so Derek has been in so many ways in real time healing, like the little girl in me that is now getting to see this gorgeous and beautiful and full of love relationship between these sweet girls and their dad. And I get to watch that every day. And he wants that. He wanted to be a dad. And so he is fully here. He's fully involved. This is just as much something he wanted as I did. And then he's also a husband and he takes that so seriously of being here and being present and thinking about our family and the decisions that he makes. And we consult each other and we're equal partners in this thing. And I'm so, so lucky and so grateful for that. But he didn't just want to check off this thing, and maybe at one point in his life he did just check off this thing of, like, wanting a wife and kids, but it was so interesting to think about it that way because there is a different level of presence that you bring to that when you're just wanting to check that off your list or, like, actually wanting to have a family and be a member of this family and stay close and grow together and adventure the world together and really live life together versus just perform in this kind of American dream of it all. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure. I always say that. I think that was the biggest thing. I mean, I was 22 when I met my ex-husband and then got married at 25, divorced at 26. And honestly, we did great on paper for ourselves. Amazing. But the fulfillment isn't there. And I feel like it's because I was so fixated on being married, buying a house, having no debt. Like, again, these great things, amazing. But just checklist, check mark versus I wanted to be a great wife. And I think you did because when you say, oh, I want to use the tools that I have, what tools do I have that will help me be a better wife? What tools do I have that will help me be a better mother? Right now, I feel like that is totally what I'm into and learning. And that's where a lot of my curiosity comes from because I'm like, I don't just want to be married. You can be married tomorrow if you wanted, really. I want to be a good wife. I also want to have somebody who, like you said, wants to be a husband, back to that freedom thing, wants to be a father. I want to be a good mom. I don't just want to be a mom, like
Mm,
what is the intent there? Because it is so much easier. And I always like to ride my single friends with that, especially when people complain about dating. I'm like, you know what? You could be married tomorrow. Like, you're not gonna end up alone. If you end up alone, it's by choice. It's not a crazy concept. You could definitely get married, but it's to who are you marrying and for what are the reasons, right? And
mhm,
I think that is so true because that's why I say, like, the biggest difference, I think, I just didn't know. I didn't know and I didn't have the tools and I didn't care about the tools because I just cared about that checklist. Like,
mm,
difference between being married and being a good spouse is huge. It's huge. So thank you for
mhm,
saying that. Uh,
mhm.
okay, I think we are very much over on time. Sorry, guys. But, our last episode, we kinda got carried away. I'm very excited about season 2, actually, but I'm also just wanting to marinate in this present moment right now with you and just say, I love you so much, Dahlia. I am so grateful for our relationship. And actually, just one last thing I needed to add to the thing I just said was I think a lot of the tools I'm using now are also like how to be a more regulated person so I can be a better friend, so I can be a more of a
Mhm.
safe space for others and for us. Like in every relationship, how can I be my best self so that I can be a good sister, daughter, friend, coworker, whatever it may be
Mhm.
to the people around me and in the relationships around me.
I love that. This episode is called Relationships, and we, I guess, could have prefaced it's about the relationships in our life. And we've talked about friendships in previous episodes. So, like, that would fall under this umbrella. But if you're wanting to learn more about friendships and how we nurture friendships in our life, that's in a previous episode. And we might be able to link to it in the show notes. But if I had to wrap this episode up into a few words, I had taken some notes about Jennifer Finlayson Five's work. Like I said, we made this episode about relationships, and for me, it is marriage. And I guess, I think marriage and relationships could be interchangeable in this sentence, but ultimately, when two people are willing to grow, tell the truth, and stay present with each other, marriage or relationships become one of the most powerful places for joy, intimacy, and spiritual growth. And I think that's ultimately what that is for us and for me. And I'm so grateful for that because that also means that conflict is a really natural and normal part of this, and that you have to come face to face with that friction and see it as something that is going to help you grow and meet the measure of your creation. And that is everything to me.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful. And I couldn't agree more. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for tuning into this season. I feel so grateful for this moment in time and for this season finale. Truly can't believe that we did this. We have been doing this. It's been so much fun to do this with you and so special. I'm so lucky for the time you've put into this. I know you live a busy life. And also, we're so thankful for every single one of you who has been listening to this podcast and giving us feedback and tuning in every week. And we feel so loved. And I mean, thanks for caring what we have to say. And
No, really, thank you so much.
we're excited for season 2, and like we said at the beginning of this episode, if you have anything that you would love to hear from season 2 or you would like us to share more of or go into more detail about, because I feel like we kind of laid out some of the topics that we love, that we care about, but like we said, we're going to be in a new place in a few months, and so there's new and different things to talk about, and we're going to continue to face different transitions in our life, and we'll go season by season and see if we should continue, but this has been a really, really special thing to do. So thank you for letting us create this and share it with you.
Thank you so much. And we will see you next season. Bye.
Bye.